So I got up today and I had this strain in my back. My back just got real tight for a couple of minutes, so I decided to unscrew the cap off my Icy Hot and just kind of roll it on there. And the thing about Icy Hot is even if you haven't used it in months and you're holding it obviously from the outside and applying it, you'll still always get a little bit on your fingers. And so after I applied the Icy Hot to my stiff back, I got an itch in my eye and I rubbed my eye and then, went about my life. And then all of a sudden I started feeling the coolness. I'm like, oh my God, I just rubbed Icy Hot in my eye. Drama, tragedy. So I run to the bathroom. Here I am, standing over a sink, barbecue sauce on my titties, like splashing water chaotically in my eye because I don't know how dangerous it is. And I cleaned it out though, so life could have been a lot worse than it actually was. You move on with your life. That's so far been the biggest tragedy of my day today, which of course doesn't touch the tragedy of getting murdered by someone, saloon style. Especially getting murdered by someone who clearly was a very troubled, violent-minded person who probably should have just been put in prison just for the general safety of the public. Anyway, that's where I'm heading. I'm in Old Town Albina. Here's like one of the many old kind of brick buildings in this area. I'm trying to get just around the corner here so I could bring you a fresh, new, historic murders of Portland. That's where I was going with all this, apparently. Anyway, I'm on Russell Street. This is the old main drag of Old Town Albina is right here behind me. Just it's about 6, 7, 8 really cool old buildings. And obviously, there was more Albina here, but I-5 cuts right through all this, literally split the majority of original Albina in half. And of course, the exact site where today's historic murder took place is literally right here where friggin' I-5 is, so I may have to yell or do most of this story from a slightly different location. I don't know, it's not too loud. But anyway, for this case, going back to June 29, 1911, the Dewdrop Inn murder. I was a little inaccurate. For some reason I thought Borthwick was right up against the freeway, and it's actually right here where I started things, so I don't know where my brain went there. For some reason I remembered Borthwick being up there, but that's Knapp, I guess. So yeah, I don't think you can see it, but it's Russell and Borthwick. This is the intersection where the Dewdrop Inn was located. Now this happened in 1911, and I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up. I don't know if this building is quite that old. It might. I know a lot of the buildings down there are turn of the century, and this is kind of right in there with them. So this might be original to 1911, and if so, I mean, it looks like it could have been a saloon with like living quarters upstairs. So for all I know, because there's no exact address given, it just says it was at the corner, not a specific corner. If it said the northwest corner, then it would have been right here where this building is. This was, Russell and Borthwick was the location. So it was here, across the street here. I don't know if Borthwick went through here at one time. It maybe used to and then was blocked off for these businesses and whatnot. Well, I also noticed that Borthwick continues right over here. It's one of these things where it comes out here, you have to jaunt onto Russell and then turn down here. So you can't deny the possibility that literally the saloon could have been like here, but it could have also been all the way over here. I really don't know for certain. But for simplicity's sake, let's just say this old building here was where the Dewdrop Inn was located. It looks like it could have held such a business. So, as the story begins, there's a guy working the Dewdrop Inn. He's the bartender there. He's a guy named Robert Harris, who the newspapers described as a, quote, gunfighter. I guess this guy was not afraid if anybody was hassling him. I mean, obviously his establishment someone's gonna try to rob it, I would understand this, but apparently just when people hassled him, he was never afraid of pulling out his gun to try to deflect people. And this is cool. I love how, it's one of these things, one of these ways this is old town, is they still have one of these here. The old kind, I'm guessing that's kind of one of those things that opens up and it's sort of an underground elevator shaft or something. I could be wrong. I don't know. It fits this area because it's such an old neighborhood. But anyway, Robert Harris is working the bar, quote, here, and this guy named Hugh Scullion. Last name spelled S-C-U-L-L-I-O-N. Scullion. At least that's what I'm going with. So Hugh Scullion comes in one night. It's a warm summer night. Everyone's probably sweating because air conditioning ain't really a thing yet, at least not in a saloon. And it's just a hot 1911 day. Scullion comes in, he sits down, he's just another patron in there. It's the evening, so it's probably a fairly full establishment. And apparently, seemingly out of nowhere, Scullion doesn't like the way his drink is made. And Robert Harrison says, yeah, well, piss off. And this fight starts breaking out. And locals, again, they know Harris is this guy who's not afraid to pull his gun out. Patrons, the moment the arguing starts, patrons start fleeing the establishment. They're probably thinking, oh man, crazy old Harris is going to pull his gun out. And they start fleeing, and what was it? And it's literally because this guy thought that Harris didn't mix his drink well enough, so he probably criticized it. What the hell is this crap? Harris got pissed. How dare you call my job into question? And he apparently, Harris in a fit of rage said, I'll kill you now, you black-hearted sneak. Or maybe black-hearted snake. Newspapers did tend to screw up quotes a lot back then. And, yeah, everyone fled, and then there were shots were heard to fire. Shots fired! And Scullion is hit, and based on accounts, again, if I'm using this building as a template, he stumbled out the back exit, which would have been theoretically back here, and I noticed there is like a door, an old beat-up door there that looks like it's about to cave in at the base. I don't know, maybe that's the doorway. He would have stumbled out back here if this is the place. So, of course, authorities are called to the scene. There's an old classic saloon shootout going on over a mixed drink. A man had to die because his drink didn't get mixed well enough. And to think about the things that people bitch about customer service-wise these days. And authorities show up, they walk into the saloon, and apparently Robert Harris is back behind the bar like nothing happened. Just, making drinks, polishing off the counter, doing whatever he does. And everybody knows that Robert Harris pulled the gun and did the shooting. So authorities arrest the guy, which they probably should have just done on principle a long time ago. And what's interesting is it's noted in newspaper reports that they never found the gun that he shot Scullion with, which opens the door to all kinds of insane conspiracy theories. How is it the police are there, within minutes, this guy has his own gun, shoots the guy inside the saloon, and then he's just back at the bar, and yet the gun vanishes. That was a really interesting element to the story. And to Robert Harris's defense, there were a bunch of people that were obviously in there drinking and saw a scuffle getting ready to break out and took off before one of them got shot, but nobody actually saw the shooting happen. So while logistically you'd think, well, they were the only guys left in there. They were arguing. It was a bitter fight. Robert Harris has got a itchy trigger finger, it seems. We all leave. We are gunfire. And the guy he's arguing with, stumbles out the back door and then turns up dead. Logistically, you're like, well, no kidding, it was Robert Harris. But the fact of the matter is, there was no actual witness to him pulling the trigger. And that is, that's something falling right into a lawyer's lap. Oh, nobody actually saw the shooting happen. And so, authorities are kind of left to trying to do their best to kind of even prove for a certainty beyond logistics that this guy, Robert Harris, did the shooting, and the name Morris Burke came to them. Apparently this guy was in the saloon, apparently one of the last people to leave, because there were people who were at the saloon that said that he was a witness to what happened, while the rest of them, you know, either didn't see anything or didn't decide to keep their mouths shut. And they eventually were able to track this Morris Burke guy to Hood River, and he ended up being, it appears, a cooperative witness, because he told them that, he pretty much told the police what they were hoping to hear, which was that he saw the shooting. Robert Harris shot Hugh Scullion, and it was, in fact, straight-up cold-blooded murder. Apparently what happened was, after the bickering started over this drink, Hugh Scullion got pissed and broke the glass, either on the floor or on the counter. That was probably what triggered Robert Harris to pull his gun. You know, maybe originally he was going to pull his gun and be like, all right, that's it, you know, you're vandalizing my shit, get out of here now. But apparently when he pulled the gun, Hugh Scullion freaked and started running, trying to get away. So it's like, okay, you can put the gun now. You did your work, you scared the guy off. But then apparently Harris just didn't care. It wasn't enough for him, and he opened fire. And he fired 3 shots, according to Morris Burke. The first 2 shots missed. The last one struck Scullion, went through his arm and into his chest where it hit his heart. And that is how Hugh Scullion ended up stumbling out the back of the establishment. Again, if this was the saloon, again, I'm using it for the sake of having a building to fit it. He would have stumbled out the back way here and ultimately collapsed and perished at that point. So Morris Burke was obviously the star witness for this situation, who was able to come out and say, Robert Harris didn't need to do what he did, but he did. And so fast forward to September 1911, a couple months after the murder case occurred, Robert Harris ended up going on trial, and he was able to plead down to second-degree murder. You know, maybe that was just part of the plea deal, maybe there was an issue, because it seemed like it was a pretty open and shut first-degree murder case, and that is actually what he was originally charged with. He was originally charged with first-degree murder and was able to plead down to second-degree murder. Maybe that had something to do with the fact that they still only had one witness who said he did it in cold blood. There's all these other people here that couldn't verify it. But it seems like Hugh Scullion was not endangering him. It didn't seem like he had a weapon. He didn't pull out a gun to fire back. He was running for his life. Dickhead. He was running for his life. It seemed like this was not only... I think it's probably because it wasn't premeditated. It wasn't Hugh Scullion came in and Robert Harris was like, oh, there's that son of a bitch. I've been waiting for you for weeks. So I think it was more that it came at the height of an argument. And Robert Harris just was full of rage and did it. So it wasn't premeditated, and usually when that happens, you aren't going to get busted on a first-degree murder beef. So, I mean, the guy still got a life sentence for what happened. So he still paid with his life to a degree going to prison for what happened. And that all happened here at Russell and Borthwick, or Russell and Borthwick a little further down. I don't know anymore. I really don't know. But I did find one more thing of interest. I mean, it's interesting, if nothing more, because of the timeliness of the whole thing, which is August 7th, 1911. So this is only 5 weeks after Robert Harris shoots Hugh Scullion in the Dewdrop Inn. A guy named Peter Moore, he was the guy that actually ran the Dewdrop Inn and was dumb enough to hire Robert Harris to sit at his bar. I mean, I assume Robert Harris did a great job of protecting their goods and preventing them from getting robbed with his itchy trigger finger. But anyway, Peter Moore ran the Dewdrop Inn, and August 7th, 1911, again only a couple weeks after, he was found dead in his room, which was located above the saloon. So again, was this the building? Was this the saloon? And was this the living quarters where Peter Moore died? Yeah, he was found dead in his room from heart failure in his quarters above his saloon. So, I mean, not only did you have this murder case coming from the Dewdrop Inn, but the owner died just a couple weeks later. So you have to wonder, was that the end of the Dewdrop Inn? So in this doorway on the end of this building that, again, I'm theorizing might have been where the Dewdrop Inn was. Again, I originally thought it was over by the freeway, so I figured whatever the building was, it was long gone. It had been demoed either before or for the freeway. So I didn't think it was on this corner. And I noticed the address of the building is 707. So I might try to compare that against old addresses to see if I can figure out what the original address of this building was way back in 1911, and then see if there's any correlation, see if it was a saloon or not, because I'm really curious if this is where the Dewdrop Inn was located. I want to get a shot of this staircase. Get a shot of this. Come on. And it's a little bit of a stretch. You know, while I was contemplating, is that where the Dewdrop Inn was? If this is also the intersection of Russell and Borthwick, anything kind of in this general area might have qualified. And this is another building that I always loved. It's all, I mean, this looks like fire damage over here, but it's all beat up. It's been all boarded up. It's been boarded up for a really long time. You can see the wood through here is just charred and dead. But what makes me ponder this, besides its correlation to Borthwick and Russell there, and more importantly here, is looking at this building. It also has an upstairs where the owner could have lived and died. But I look at this entryway, and this has always screamed bar saloon to me. It's always said, I've always had the feeling that this might have been a saloon or something at some time. So in addition to that building, I'm not sure if this building dates back before 1911, however. I know that they are both on the Oregon Historical Database, which means I can look them up and find general information about them. But you've got this way, you got this way, you got a semi-truck ruining my day. So you have two entries that may have been different businesses at one time. I really don't know, but I'm going to check both of them just to see. And then you've got another doorway here with a porch I would not want to step on because I'd probably fall right through it. I saw... Oh, okay, this just says that the police are monitoring this, which, I mean, good. This is, it looks like this place is probably like a... I mean, there's the U on the building. It's probably a fire trap, so... I mean, geez, look at the state of the wood on this building. So, you know, there's the distinct possibility that it could have been one of these two buildings. I'm going to check it out, but then again, it could have been another building that maybe stood here. It could have been across the street up there. Could have been in this lot. Could have been in this lot. I don't know. Gonna have to do the best I can to find out, I guess. And that, my friends and fellow adventurers, is the story of the Dewdrop Inn murder. where an itchy, trigger-fingered saloon barkeep got pissed because a guy called the quality of his beverage creation ability into question, and maybe other stuff had been going on, and maybe he had just had enough that day, and for whatever reason, the combination of the insults over his drink with the broken glass, Robert Harris decided Hugh Scullion needed to go, and not just go from the saloon, but to go from God's green earth, and opened fire on him until he hit him. He only hit him with one bullet, but that bullet was enough to take care of this guy and end his life. Again, over a drink, which I could use right about now. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that little piece of history from Old Town Albina, the heart of Old Town Albina, from 1911. And hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again for watching, as always. And remember the basics: like, share, subscribe, comment, but keep it nice. And hit up my Patreon if you want to help me out that way. I'd be most appreciative of that, toward that, for it. I don't know. I'm out of my mind. But anyway, just again, guys, thanks for watching. And till next time, try not to get hit. This has been Steve the Amateur Historian with another episode of Historic Murders of Portland. Catch you later.